physiological sensations. You don't always have to tell your body to do anything. It will know. And the simple act of closing our eyes is a symbol to our bodies. It's a signal, if you will, to our bodies that nothing much is going on out there. It's a signal of safety, that I do not need to be alert through my eyes to my external circumstances. And with this, we can begin to breathe a little bit deeper. If you would like to, in through the nose and out through the mouth. It's always a good way to bring a little presence. And let's just do a body scan right now. A body scan is a great way to begin to bring some non-judgment to whatever's happening in our sensations. Right now, I notice I have a little bit of a kind of a nervous trembling in my stomach. My shoulders are a little bit sore because I did some movements earlier this week. If I take a deep breath, I can maybe feel a little bit of tightness in my chest just from a long day of work, some looking over the computer. So just begin to notice what are some subtle or strong signals in your body, and no need to make them go away. They just exist. If you'd like to, you can intentionally squeeze your shoulders up to your ears on an inhale, and then drop them on an exhale. We hold our shoulders, we hold our jaw so tight throughout so much of our lives unintentionally. With another breath, you can let your stomach go a little bit. A lot of us hold tension in our stomachs and our solar plexus and our diaphragm. And sometimes when you intentionally push out the stomach, it releases tension there as well. And my favorite one of all, release some tension in your butthole. That's right, I said it. Good thing I'm my own boss and I can say that to you guys. Release some tension that you are holding down below. We all do it. My dog did not like that, apparently. And we'll just take another 30 seconds here, a few more breaths. If you want to do a little stretch, a little movement, whatever feels right, whatever feels good, and to bring all of our attention here, bring our focus together for the next 45 minutes or so to maybe learn something new, learn something old that you need to remember. Maybe you will meet a part of yourself, or you'll just get some good facts for your journey. Whatever your intention is, it is welcome here. And so we come back slowly, start to flutter our eyes back open, back to our screens, back to this digital world that we're all a part of right now. If you would like to drop in the chat how you're feeling, maybe a word of how you're feeling, a sensation, an emotion, I'd love to see those. How's everybody doing tonight? I think my word is I feel tight, crunchy, nice, tight and crunchy. Stephanie is grounded. I love that feeling, being here on this earth. There's a lot going on up here these days, so it's good to be grounded. Sebastian is warm. That's a good sensation. Warm can be physical. It can be emotional too, right? It can be many things. Scott says long day. Scott, I love you. I'm gonna force you to put an emotional or a sensational word. What does a long day feel like? Oh, I love it. Because I don't know. If you just say long day, my long day could feel a lot different than your long day. If you guys are new to Buena Vita, we like to speak in the language of emotions because the mushrooms speak in the language of emotions and sensations and subtleties. They don't always speak in facts and figures and figuring and intellect in the way that the mind does. So it's good to start to as you get into the world of microdosing or macrodosing or both, to start to speak a different language. He says, okay, yes. Okay, you get frustration. Good word. He's feeling the frustration. All right. And as always, your feelings and emotions are like clouds in the sky, and they pass and they come and they go. And if we truly feel them, they don't stick around for too long. Now, habits of emotions, those are different things that we can talk about at a different time. But let's get this going here. Raise your hand real quick. I want to see everybody. Who here has ever micro-dosed psilocybin mushrooms? Anybody with the micro? The babies, the small ones, okay? Those of you that have a video on, I can see. And how about a hand up for large, full doses? You can call them therapeutic doses. You can call them a full dose. You can call them a big dose. Everyone on Zoom says everyone's hand is raised. All right. And anyone, I think everyone who raised their hand that I could see on video, but you can drop something in the chat if you have never had any mushrooms at all. I always like to see if there are the mushroom curious that are like, or maybe one a very long time ago. That's a very common guest we see at Buena Vita is like, oh, once in college or a long time ago, it wasn't that great, or I don't really remember, or it wasn't, or maybe it wasn't a very good experience. That's a common that we see as well. Okay, so we have a little bit of mushy experience. Let's get into, the reason I wanted to do this webinar, just to begin here, is I am one of the founding members of the Microdosing Collective, which is a nonprofit that is really pushing in many different places to decriminalize microdosing. And the main reason for that is not because we don't all believe that larger doses are effective, but rather that it can be easier, almost like a Trojan horse, to get microdosing legalized and understood and studied, maybe quicker than we can get the larger doses or the therapeutic doses. And so we've done a lot of fantastic work there. I myself have microdosed. I'll go into a little bit later why I don't always as a habit microdose, especially with psilocybin. But that is for a particular reason, and it has to do with the type of relationship that I have to this medicine, which is, it's an interesting one, let's say. So let's get this going here. I'm going to start sharing. Again, if you guys don't know me, my name is Amanda Schendel. I'm the founder of the Buena Vita Psilocybin Retreats. We have been working in Mexico for almost 8 years now, and we have a ranch out in Joshua Tree that's been about 3.5 years in Joshua Tree, where we have a federally recognized mushroom church. Woohoo! Never thought I'd be saying something that cool, but we do. Recognized by the state of California and the federal church. I am the mushroom goddess. That is officially in paperwork. I did not want to use the word pastor or reverend or something that has already been used by other organizations, and so I got to choose exactly what I wanted to call myself. And that is very fun. So let's take a look at this presentation, shall we? Let's take a look here. As always, it takes a second to get this going. We're going to be, as you can see, of course, let me move everybody so I can make sure that I see you guys. There we go. That's better. Alrighty. Okay, so microdosing is huge right now. It's everywhere. I have microdosing kits trying to be sold to me on social media a lot of times. It feels like ever since the past few years, people have just thrown legality out the window, and they're just like, let's just sell this everywhere. And some of the shops here in Austin, Texas, you can find, I don't think it's true psilocybin. It's some sort of derivative synthetic of psilocybin that you can find called Road Trip and these other things that you can find in dispensaries and things like this. It's in a lot of circles is being sold as healing, and I would prefer to think of it as optimization. Some of the quotes and some of the things you're going to see in this presentation, I have all of the sources at the end, and so I'll have some little sources on the bottom, but this is a collection of a lot of different research I've done, and I wanted to really simplify everything into one. So I do think that optimization is a great word when we think of microdosing. I wouldn't say if you were going about a deep healing journey that it would be the best route. So these are the two paths that we're speaking about tonight, right? Micro and our full therapeutic dose. Technically, microdosing is anywhere from, I would say 0.05 or 0.1 being 1/10 of 1 gram. I like to start about 0.05, which is like a 20th of a gram. Basically because everyone is very different. Everyone's sensitivities are different. And then there are other people who take, 2/10, 3/10, and the idea is to have a sub-perceptual effect. Subtlety. I can't tell you the amount of times people say, Amanda, I took my microdosing pills and I didn't feel anything. And I was like, congratulations, you did it right. That is the idea, that it builds over time. It's incremental, gradual mood shifts, gradual patience. A lot of people will notice spaciousness is this word that maybe sounds woo-woo, but once you start microdosing, you'll notice that maybe in any of the time that used to be more reactive, quick to think something negative, quick to have a pattern of thought, there's more spaciousness. Much like it might feel after, like we do a little bit of breath or yoga or something where you go, oh, there's more space between me and my ego, right? Who I think I am, my thoughts, my identity. Now, it doesn't necessarily crush your identity in the way that sometimes a large dose can. So the self-concept has to be something that you're slowly changing over time through other modalities, right? Through meditation, through self-work, the many, many different things that are available to us to do that kind of identity shift. Belief change, mindset change, all of them are fantastic. Now, then you get over to these big guys, the big daddies, right? 3 to 5 grams. I would say even lower than that. I mean, plenty of people that I work with on 2.5 grams are having full, what feels like a breakthrough dose. And it is disruptive. Those of you that have been through a retreat, this word I feel like is overused by the tech community. But it can be disruptive in the best way possible. And this is why no website or no webinar can ever really explain what happens at a retreat. And I hear this all the time at retreat because there's such a disruption to our day-to-day patterns. And that can be a disruption to the way you think about yourself, about the world, the way you feel in your body, a belief that you've held so secure that it almost feels like it's tied to you in the deepest way can shift. I've seen even, like lifelong atheist materialists that are like, I got to reconsider this. Like you just have an experience where the things you hold so tightly are disrupted. And the temporary, that's an important word, dissolving of your identity. The people who come to me and want ego death, I go a little bit deeper with them because one, I say, that your ego comes back, right? Even if it dies, even if you have the most, mind-blowing, right? You go back into the void, you're in the perfect allness of all, and you forgot who you are. Unless you have a psychotic break, which we do not want to happen, in order to be on this planet, in this dimension, you need an ego, you need an identity. So that can shift drastically, and it can really change who you are, but those states in a safe way are temporary. We don't want you to dissolve your identity completely. Okay? Not yet. Come on, little guy. Oh, it's not letting me move. Let's see. Give me just a second here. All right. I'm going to make sure we're on the right. Yes. Here we are. Okay. So what does microdosing do? Those of you that have this experience, Mood, I think, mood lift seems to be the thing I hear the most, is just people notice a general shift. And this probably takes at least a month, I would say, if not maybe a month to even 6 weeks, to notice that your baseline mood is increased, is slightly changed. Um, and this can be similar to the longer term effects of a larger dose as well. Cognitive flexibility. What does that mean? That's crazy, right? What is cognitive flexibility? Enhanced divergent thinking. I kept reading this in a lot of the research. Enhanced divergent thinking. So this is some of the reason I believe that's leading to show that psilocybin is really great to combat degenerative um, brain issues, right? Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, because the ability to have divergent thinking, to be able to connect different parts of your brain, to literally think differently, to think in ways where, perhaps when you were back in college or when you were studying and you had that strong cognitive ability to switch tasks, to pay attention, right, to go into deep work. These are all parts of the brain that need exercise and they do need improvement. And psilocybin can really be helpful in aiding this type of divergent thinking. Divergent thinking also goes along the way of belief system change as well. Pardon me just a second. We're going to let in Alan. Come on in, Alan. Okay, so there's some plateaus here. That's one of the limits. We don't have, this is the bottom line to any data on microdosing, no long-term data. That's just until we have more studies, until more are funded. We're just going on mainly the combination of the limited studies we have plus, the anecdotal information that I have as well. Okay, so what does microdosing not do? This is what we've seen, and this I really see, I think, for people who have microdosed for a while but they haven't come to a retreat or they haven't done a large dose yet, and they're looking for these things, which is deep trauma healing. We just don't have evidence yet for PTSD and deep somatic trauma. I like to say if you don't think you have trauma, you just haven't figured it out yet. I'm not laughing about trauma, but I'm laughing about the fact that trauma, we spend so much of our lives wanting to deflect by comparing ourselves to other people. Other people had it worse, other people had this, other people had that. And trauma is just anything, really. And this is why it's a huge range, right? It's a huge spectrum. It's any time that something happens to your body or to your world where you didn't have the time or the space to process it. That's it. It is not an outside circumstance that someone validates. It is not something that you could write home about necessarily. And then there's chronic, right? CPTSD, chronic or long-term PTSD, where, for example, you lived in a home where you had to be the parent, right? You didn't have a parent that was taking care of things. And so your nervous system got set to, now I have to be in charge. I'm always on alert. I'm always hypervigilant. That is long-term trauma that lives in the body and then leads down the line to things, fibromyalgia, like a lot of autoimmune, chronic inflammation, which then those things lead to and are caused by chronic people pleasing, putting everyone else first, being hypervigilant, being unable to calm down, being unable to stop working even when you're done. All of these things come from deep somatic meaning of the body, deep somatic trauma. Even if we don't have a story or we don't remember. Everybody wants to have the story of their trauma so then they could just think it through like this. And then they could say, well, they didn't know what they were doing, and so I have to forgive them, and then I'm just going to think this through. Unfortunately, these things live in the body and the nervous system, and if there's one thing I know about the nervous system, that little fucker remembers things. If I can be so bold. It really does. Chronic anxiety and depression, right? Long-term, not just moments of anxiety, which I think if you're a human alive on this planet right now, if you don't have some form of anxiety, how are you doing that? Anxiety is a normal reaction to what is happening in our world right now, right? We don't have a lot of the pillars of like being able to look at life and the future in any sort of a solid context, like culturally, like we have before. And then relational patterns. And these are all combined together, right? So microdosing is most likely, from what we see, not going to touch these. It can help you, again, begin to slightly open and shift some mindset. So, for example, if you were doing other trauma work, if you were doing other therapy, right, microdosing might be a helper to this. Full therapeutic doses. So we're moving on to here. These are the facts, but this is what we know for sure. If you have been to any of our webinars, we talk a lot about the default mode network, right? Which is a great name. It tells you exactly what it does. It's your default mode and way of being. But I love this. I love this phrase here, the engine of rumination and depression. In a long-term study on depression, it's one of my favorites. Most people thought that depression causes rumination, right? So you get into a depressive state, and then you have ruminating thoughts, repetitive thoughts, negative self-talk, etc. But what they found in these long-term studies is that rumination causes depression. That is actually the other way around. And so not all cause of depression, but in many chronic depressive people, it was the rumination first and the depressive symptoms secondly. But it's not always so easy, right, to just stop having these thoughts, right? You just, wouldn't that be so lovely if I could just stop ruminating? It can help to have a large disruptive dose of psilocybin. This brain-wide connectivity, this is all, trust me, I have very close friends and people that work with us that are neuroscientists. Any good neuroscientist will tell you that they don't know hardly anything about the brain. They see what it does, they don't know why it does it. And they see patterns and they see electricity running different places, but they don't really know what is happening. But they're starting to make some conclusions, theories, let's say, like this brain-wide connectivity can help with those stuck patterns, because we see in someone in a depressed brain, in a ruminating brain, that it has lost a lot of its connectivity. And it lost a lot of its electrical signals as well. Surface stored emotional material. This is always the fun stuff, guys. This is why I both love and get very exhausted on retreats, because I get to be witness to human beings that are maybe feeling for the first time their deeply stored emotions. It's magical. It can be exhausting and then very freeing. And I don't think in any of my research, nor what I have seen, that I could tell you the exact mechanism of action of why these large doses do this. But all I know is they do. And if you come to a retreat or you do a full dose with a trip sitter, however you decide to do that, or those of you that have, you know that a friend of mine used to say, you most likely will stumble upon a spiritual experience, right? Even if you have no intention, you're going to stumble upon an emotional experience. You're going to stumble upon it. It's just the way this medicine works. And at this point in my journey, with about 23 years with psilocybin, I don't even necessarily have a specific intention when I go into my own journeys, other than you know what I need and you know what I need to feel, and I trust you. And another one that I like to give people is, like, anything standing in the way of how I want to feel, I'm ready to let that go, right? Anything standing in the way of my freedom, anything standing in the way of my clarity, I'm ready to let that go. And then take the journey. All right, so our full dose, it opens up for about, we think, 3 weeks to a month, this huge window of neuroplasticity. It is restructuring. It is rewriting. It's like having a brand new computer with brand new software, right? If you, like I always say, and this is a disappointing part about the work that I do, if you have a full, huge dose, whether you're at home or at a retreat, wherever you are, but then you go right back into your same everyday patterns. You go right back to Costco and yelling at everyone in the parking lot. You go right back to arguing with your spouse, right? You go back watching negative news. Guess what you're rewriting? The same thing. right? So this is the thing, is that psilocybin doesn't offer to come in and rewrite all of your software necessarily, but it does give you this window where you can use, and this is why integration obviously is so important. You can use tools. There are many out there, right? You can use tools of breath, of silence, of quiet, like especially in that first 3 weeks, like less information the better. Just letting yourself rewrite things naturally and intentionally, right? So the big ones I always like to tell people are, and we do this work kind of before retreats, which is your really solid statements. I always, I never, I can't, I won't. If you can catch yourself throughout a week saying those, I always do this. Or if you look at the world, they always, they never, they will never, I can never. Those are just arrows to the beliefs that are very solid. And part of being in your creator or creative consciousness is recognizing that all of those beliefs were just written at some time. Even the ones you hold on to the strongest. So you can begin with this neuroplastic window to slightly and slowly, because the brain likes slowly and a lot of evidence, slowly rewrite these beliefs. So this is what we're talking about. Pattern interruption. Sometimes if we're in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, we have a lot of patterns, right? We have patterns from our parents. We have patterns from society. We don't even know necessarily where they've all come from. But being in a safe, contained, and supported place when this interruption is active, of course, is extremely important, right? Because you wouldn't want to rewrite terror and fear and mistrust and abandonment and all of these things. And that's what can cause, a bad journey or a bad after journey is that you are open. Open is the easiest word to describe when someone says, what happens during mushrooms, right? How do you feel? What happens? Like, you are very open. Your lens, as Aldous Huxley calls it, the doors of perception are wide open. So maybe usually you can see this much, now you can see like this, and you can usually only feel here, and now you can feel bigger. So, safety, emotional safety, the people around you really matter during those times, because this is the rewiring time. All right, so here's those big words that everybody in the psychedelic space knows, right? Set and setting. Your mindset, your readiness, your intention. We worked for a long time with Dr. Rosalind McAlpine on the psychedelic preparedness scale. And I can send that to some of you. And she did research on so many different ways that someone could prepare themselves for a psychedelic journey. And we really found mindset is a huge one, right? What are your expectations? What are some healthy expectations? What are unhealthy expectations? Your intention, right? Your intention is so different from a goal. An intention is looser and it's more open to shift. Writing those, that's part of the pre-work that we do, is we have an entire day around intentions. And strangely, this will predict your outcome more than the dose. So people, they would love to talk to me all day long about 4 grams, 5 grams, 8 grams, right? As if there's going to be some magic number that's going to fix them. Some of the worst news I have for you tonight, humans, there is no fix. Oh, everybody's been looking for it from the dawn of time. The one fix, right? This one's pretty good. Psychedelics are pretty good, but there is no one fix. And the setting, right, is the safety, the environment. And this is really comes down to the subconscious as well. I was talking with potentially a future guest earlier this week, and she was relaying to me a situation that she had with psilocybin where she was supposedly in a safe place with a trip sitter and this and that, but she said later she felt that subconsciously, almost, because your subconscious is so active during the journey and you have access, it was like subconsciously, I don't really trust this person, and what if someone knocks on my door, and what if the mailman comes by? So there was all these things running in the background that were part of the setting that led to not truly being able to do that magical thing called letting go, right? That's surrender. And then, of course, integration. And at our retreats, we like to start integration by day 2. because that's going to be the rest of your life. The way that you move from your peak states into your daily traits, it's probably the greatest thing I think that anyone who is chasing a retreat or a teacher or a medicine or anything is that they have to realize that you can go to peak states, once or twice a year, but your traits are what you do every single day, right? It's your journal, it's your water that you drink, it's if you go out to nature or you don't. Those are the things longest term that really start to shift, and that's what integration really is all about. Okay, so these are just some little numbers that we kind of found of the response rates, the remission rate. Remission is an interesting, this was, again, some like self reported of how people felt. The biggest one we see here, and this is the people who respond to us, not everybody responds, but our 6 month, if someone said to us after a retreat that they felt some sort of improvement in their mental health, and then we follow up in 6 months, and we have 80% of people said, I still feel that same improvement in my anxiety, my depression, my rumination, whatever it was that they really were coming to work on. And I noticed that a year or a year and a half is also a magical sweet spot. Like really talking to people after they've moved through their life and maybe had some life changes that happen in a year and a half, as they, I mean, these days, every month, right? But in regular time, is when you really start to see behavior, relational, the big things, like they take time. And that's why I love talking with people a year, 2 years, 3 years later, of like, they're like, looking back, I had some up and downs and I thought it didn't work. And then, I thought everything went away and I was myself again. But really looking back, and I feel the same way about my journey with psychedelics. In the long term, I guess now, really, since I've been on like the devoted medicine path, has been about 13 years. I still have my bad days. I still have my bad times. I still have issues in my life that are repeating, and, lessons that I carry. But I just can't imagine who I would be without this work. I cannot imagine it. I've been through some big things, some family issues, my dog dying in my own hands, and like my presence and my ability to be with the moment, I directly attribute to the work that I've done in these spaces, and the work that the medicine has done on me. And not just my brain, but my heart and my emotions, my ability to just be in my heart and be present, has been massive. Let's see if I can get out of here. Let Miss Natalia in. Okay, so some of the biggest things we see: burnout, anxiety, depression, self relationship. That's the big one, because guess what, guys? The best relationship, if you want to, that you're ever going to have in your whole life is with you. It's the one that's going to be there till the very end. And that's the one that we work on together. We work on you and you. That's the relationship. That's the one that some of us try to escape through other relationships. And these are the big ones. And let me see what else we got here. Okay, this is kind of like, we're just going to end it here. And then I want to take some questions about anything and everything that came up. Basically, microdosing is kind of slower. It's good for stability over time, right? If you've had a few high doses, it's a little bit more surface level, and full doses are obviously faster at that disruption place, faster at the neurogenesis, faster at giving you that window of rewriting, and more transformative. They're more healing, they're deeper. And these may sound obvious, but I think that there are quite a few people, if I'm being honest, that they really want to microdose to avoid a full dose. I see this a lot. People are like, well, maybe I don't need to go to, maybe I could just microdose. Maybe I could just microdose. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because of all people, we have a big screening process. We have a medical background screening. We do not allow anyone into our retreats that isn't ready. And in fact, there was a couple this week where the wife was ready and the husband was not ready because he was just being dragged along. And I was like, you're not going to do well if you're being dragged here. You're really not. You have to understand. And so, but what I hear when people really want to microdose, but they really don't want to have a full dose is just a little bit of fear. which is normal. Um,
Exactly. Like,
it's not wanting to do the thing that many of us have been avoiding for a very long time, which is to face ourselves, to truly face ourselves. And it's something that I like to say a lot in ceremony, which is, at the end of ceremony when I'm sitting and I'm looking at, you know, these 6 or 7 or 8 human beings and they just went through this big journey, is like how proud I am of the bravery and what it takes to choose to actively, one, make a big investment of time and money and energy and taking time off of work and come and do work that many people will never do. You guys know them. You have family members, you have people you've seen perhaps pass on that just were like, I'm not looking. Nope. I don't want to know. Yeah, yeah, but he did it right. Like, no, 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 right? And a phrase I thought the other day that was really poignant. We were in a different webinar about a week ago, and I said, raise your hand if you're an overthinker, right? People go, overthinker, overthinker. And I said, isn't it interesting that we know what that means? That we say overthinker. Like that would imply that we know that it's too much, right? That we know that it's beyond. Because if you just said, I'm a regular thinker, that's great. But the overthinking, like there's something that goes off that is like, this is no longer working, but it's still going, right? It's still going, it's still going. So a similar phrase is when you hear people, I was watching something not too long ago, and it was a young man in his 20s, and he's like, yeah, of course I get mad, or, of course I get sad, but I just stuff it down. And that's another interesting phrase, right? He didn't say, I just let it go. He didn't say, like, I just choose to not interact. He said, I stuff it down. Now, you could say, though, that's just a phrase that we say as humans, but like we know instinctively that like it doesn't go anywhere, right? I mean, it does. It goes somewhere else, it goes deep. And when we don't feel our emotions and express them, even if that's just shaking or moving or journaling or whatever it is, that you stuff them down. And I have seen many people over the years, and thank you, psychedelic medicine for this, that maybe for the first time in 40, 50, 62 years are like, well, here we go. I guess it's time to feel all those, let's take out the stuffing, all the stuff. And what's amazing about this, though, is that so many people think it's going to overwhelm them. So many people think that they're going to be the one that goes crazy, or they're going to be the one that can't control themselves, or because we have this memory of how often we've done this to ourselves, that we haven't felt, that we've moved on, that we're too busy, that we're literally like, I'm a mom and I have this, I can't sit and feel this right now. But the body is this magical instrument, and combined with psilocybin, like it is incredible what your body can process in a night, right? If you just let it, if you really just let it, if you let it shake and cry and maybe make a sound or whatever it needs to do, you don't have to go one by one to every time in the past that had an emotion that you didn't feel. You don't have to go encyclopedic through your past. You just have to be surrendered enough and ready enough to feel what your body's ready to feel. And then it's an ongoing process, right? So I think my Amanda, mushroom expert, I say that with quotes, but I mean, I guess it's true at this point. What I recommend to most human beings, with an asterisk that this is not for everyone, that I think could help our mental health immensely, our mental and emotional health, is if we were able to do 1 to 2 high doses of psilocybin mushrooms per year, and then microdose as a supplement, as a way to continue on the work. There may be a huge shift in many of us if we were able to do that. At the end of the day, to me, the mushrooms, and I mean, I'm not going to go too deep into my witchy woo woo side, which some of you know, but they really are an emotional power washer. They're a power washer for the brain and for your beliefs and for your stuckness. And there's no reason why we should think that we can just, have one dose and everything's going to be better. It's just like we wouldn't take one shower and think that we're going to be clean forever. It's the easiest way to look at it, right? And that's always the joke that I make. If you're on my webinars, I make this joke a lot. That you don't ever, let's say you went camping for a weekend, right? You don't get in the shower and go, oh God, here I am again. My face is dirty. My armpits are why are my armpits smelling, right? You never do that. But why? Why do you just take a shower? Because you know that life goes on, and then there's bacteria, and then you get sweaty, and then you go take a shower, and then right? That's the same thing with our emotions and our mental health. Like, we need to regularly clean it out. And so there's no need for shame or guilt or anything of like, oh my gosh, I do this one to myself. I'm crying again. Oh, I'm crying, I thought I was done. I thought the well had been emptied. And it was like, no, a lot happened in the world recently, as in every single day, right? A lot is happening in my family. A lot is happening in my work. And my tears are like a shower for the heart. And so I take my shower, and they run down here, and they run. And sometimes I even put my tears and I put them on my heart. I take a breath, right? This is a biological function, an evolutionary way of being, right? Shaking, crying, moving, laughing. All of these things are ways that our body releases emotion. And a way to do that in a big way is with a high dose of these magical mushrooms. So I'm embroidering that on a pillow, right? Tears are a shower for your heart. Wouldn't you cry more if you knew that? You're like, here, come on, let's go. Okay. This has been amazing. We have plenty of time. I always stay on a little bit later, but if you guys want to, you can either raise your Zoom hand, you can drop a question in the chat. What did I not cover? What would you like to know? Before I do that real quickly, I wanted to share with you, we do have a microdosing partner, and we're going to start doing a lot more work with Setas Seminary. Setas, S-E-T-A-S, which if you speak Espanol, Setas means mushrooms. And Setas is another female-founded church. They are in Nevada. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you, and I'm going to drop this information because they're giving us a 50% off deal for tonight. 50%. That's pretty amazing. They have not only one of the first FDA-approved areas for packaging psilocybin mushrooms, which I'm very proud of, but they also work with, one of the two women is an herbalist. And so when you get some of their microdosing kits, they are not only psilocybin mushrooms, but as you can see here, they are also, based on how you want to feel, you get another piece of it, which is a sacramental medicinal blend. So for example, in this one that's called Peace and Harmony, in the harmony is reishi, lion's mane, linden tree, ashwagandha, L-theanine. Those of you that have anxiety, and if you don't have L-theanine and ashwagandha, please, just go out today. Those are incredible for anxiety. Then moving down here, there's one that's for introspection. So this one is the Soul Seeker. This is going to be a little bit more cognitive based. So in the soul, we have here P. cubensis, right? Psilocybin, cubensis, which are the psychedelic mushroom blend. Chaga and cordyceps. Cordyceps are great for your brain. And then the blend, right? The larger non-psychedelic blend that complements this is motherwort. Oh my gosh, motherwort's great for dreaming. Holy basil, and actually gotu kola. Gotu kola I'm not familiar with. The third one here is focus. Lucid intention. This is the one I haven't tried yet. So anyway, I'm going to drop this in here. I'm going to drop the link. I will give you guys a code for this 50% off, and it comes in this beautiful package. Theirs are a little bit larger. I want to say there's 0.15. I will send more information about that. So you might want to start with a half. So when I got this is technically a month of microdosing, but I was able to make it 2 months because I didn't need quite as much as of the actual psilocybin that was in here. But I trust these women. They're doing absolutely beautiful work, and with a lot of safety and a lot of integrity, which is who we like to work with, because that's what we do. It's coming into the chat right now. Cetas Seminary. So they're a church, right? So you'll become a member of their church, which is free, just like it is with Buena Vida, and that gives you then, as a member of the church, that's why it's legally able for them to send those through the mail, for you to receive them, etc. And some of you are already members of. You'll just be a member of every mushroom church, guys, if you want to. Will they ship it to another state? They absolutely will ship it to another state, because you will be a member of their church and it will come to you in a beautiful package in the mail. Isn't life grand? This is happening. Okay, I am ready for some questions. Who's got a question about microdoses, macrodoses, retreats? What's on your mind, guys? You can either unmute or you can.
I got a question, Amanda.
Mhm.
I was wondering if you can explain the difference between microdosing psilocybin and microdosing San Pedro.
Absolutely, I can. Yes, because I've only microdosed San Pedro a little bit, but I've taken San Pedro a lot. Probably almost as much as mushrooms. Give me just 1 second. I want to make sure, because someone asked for the discount code in the chat, and I'm going to make sure. Let's see what Pam said here. Okay. 50% off. Here's this. Or $100 for 2 months upfront. Oh, here we go. I have a new link for everyone that's going to be direct, and it's going to be this specific one they have going on there. There we go. San Pedro cactus, which Benita's talking about, or Wachuma. Wachuma is its indigenous name in some regions, and then San Pedro was what the Catholics called it when they took it, because St. Peter is the guardian to heaven, and so they felt when they drank this cactus or they ate this cactus that they were led into heaven. San Pedro is, to me, well, it's a mescaline for one, so it's a stimulant. Much like peyote. So peyote and San Pedro are cousins. They're similar cactus, but the peyote grows in North America, Mexico, and southern U.S. San Pedro is it's a truth medicine, I would say. It brings you very, very deeply into the present moment, and it brings you into your heart. And so when you at the higher doses, it's impossible to lie. I'll say that. And I've sat with hundreds of people in ceremony. So if you don't like being vulnerable, too bad, because San Pedro, everything is in the open. I would say it's really good for, in the microdosing sense, for presence. So if you're someone who's always lost in the past or the future, San Pedro is that medicine. It's also the masculine grandfather. So in the shamanic view, it's for decisiveness. If you are always confused about decisions and you're like, I have to ask 100 people before I make a decision, you just want decisiveness, it's really great for that. In combination with combo, which is the frog medicine combo, is not a psychedelic, but it is it's a poison of a frog that goes into and cleans out your entire lymphatic system. It's absolutely incredible. But that's also wonderful for decisiveness. Like my first few combo sessions, like for like 6 months, it was like my yes is my yes, my no is my no. That's all there is to it. If you have anything going on with your lymph system, with your immune system, if you have like a chronic immune deficiencies, combo is also, and combo is KAMBO. Really amazing. It's known as the vaccine of the jungle. That's what it's referred to in some of the South American indigenous communities, the vaccine of the jungle. For places that don't have access to vaccines, they do have combo, which for some of the communities keeps a lot of them healthy. Yeah, so
Would,
focus, clarity, decisiveness, and like that, what they refer to as the masculine energy, which is, yeah, moving forward, moving, and decisiveness.
okay, what about the dosage? Would it be similar to psilocybin or a little bit
You
more?
know, it depends on who makes it, because like I've made a lot of the cactus medicine, and depending on how you brew it, and or it can be made into a powder, it
Mhm.
varies wildly in strength. So that would be something, and I can connect you if you need to. I have some people probably here in Austin or in California that will put together microdosing with San Pedro, but I would trust them because, yeah, really, it depends on the cactus, how you brew it, how you, like, what you add to, or, if you dilute it a little bit more, if it's pure. And then
Mhm.
the individual cactus itself, like, they really do vary incredibly. So I would want whoever is actually making it, I would want to ask them the doses.
Yeah, the person I know who was actually doing it, they're doing, I think, 2 grams, which seemed like kind of high, but they suggested starting at 1. And I was like, I don't know. So I just was curious what your opinion was on that. Yeah.
My opinion with any drug is start low and go slow.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
Anything, right?
Yeah.
You can always do, or another one you can embroider on a pillow, drugs. You can always do more, you can't do less.
I can't take them away. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Anybody got a question? You pondering anything? Anything coming to mind? Yeah, Stephanie. Hello,
I
hello.
guess it's not a question, but I was really struck when you said that some people are were microdosing to avoid a macro dose. And I'm like, oh, like the fear and just I have done a couple, only a 2 or 3 times have I done like 3 grams. And one time was with MDMA, and that was really lovely. And it's just really interesting how much fear there is. It's like, why am I so afraid of what will come out, even though I want to heal? So I've been microdosing, and yeah, you can't feel it. I can't feel anything, and I just find that interesting. That was like a hit for me. I'm like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, okay. There's still some edges, like that I want to
Well, and
explore.
you should be, like, don't ever get to a place because that's called, sociopathy or psychopathy where there's no more edges, right? Where there's no more fear, where there's no more places you haven't been. And um, I don't think people believe me. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Every time I do mushrooms, I'm terrified. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'll think of anything to not. I'll be like, I'll have it planned out and be like, I should do my taxes again. Like anything, anything other than, even though I know it's going to be beautiful, even though I know it's good for me, even though I love the mushrooms and I think that, like, somehow their intelligence is far beyond anything I can ever grasp in my day to day life. The fear that is, like, so ingrained into our DNA as a part of our ego of staying the same, like everything in us wants to stay the same. Every part of our brain wants to stay the same. This is why our brain is so almost detrimental to us because it's just likes patterns and it likes old patterns. And it really does. This is what Rosalind McAlpine says. She's like, it's a pattern making machine. That's it. Like, your brain does not really want to learn anything new. It doesn't really want to change. And so we kind of have to force it. And that's really scary.
Yeah.
And this is why I think, setting, like, everything around you being so taken care of. So
Yeah.
at any moment you open your eye a little bit and there is someone who's like a guardian, there is someone that no matter what is there, like, helps a little bit, and there's still the fear every time. There's still
Yeah.
the fear
I
every single time.
I realized that one more question. If
Hmm.
one is on SSRIs, is that something you have to eliminate before you do a full therapeutic dose?
I'm just going to go ahead and say no. My opinions have changed on this so much over the years. We work with lots of people who do need to stay on their SSRIs. All of them are different. I know individually which ones tend to block the experience more than
Mhm.
others. It depends on how long you've been on them, the dose. If you can come off to the lowest, like, effective dose during the time, that's the best. But your doctor has to give you a tapering schedule because going off too quick is very dangerous. And but yeah, I have worked with people, they just need a higher dose most of the time to have a
Yeah.
breakthrough experience. And sometimes it is weakened because, those drugs play on the exact same receptors. And so the mushrooms are trying to get in, the SSRIs are trying to get in. And so you don't want to overwhelm, serotonin syndrome has never happened to anyone that we've worked with, but it is a reality, right, where you can just kind of be overloaded and it can be dangerous. But we have a nurse practitioner on our team who's worked with psychedelics for a very long time, and she's also emergency medicine and an herbalist, and she just knows all the meds really well. But I would just say yes. Like we if you need to stay on them, you need to stay on them. And I think that it's overblown in other circles that you like must be off of those drugs because the United States is what 3-4% of the whole world, and we take 25% of pharmaceutical drugs. So
Yeah.
guess what? People are on pharmaceutical drugs, you know, and it's like they deserve to still have this healing. And then some people need to stay on them, like that's part of their mental health regimen, you know. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, real quick. I know Bonita has one. I know that Scott asked a question, and I think someone else asked a question. Um, would I be a member of both Buena Vita and Cetus? I'm interested in the preparedness document. Okay, Scott, I'll get that to you. It's called the Psychedelic Preparedness Scale, is actually the name of it. You can just Google that, and it's Rosalind McAlpine, PhD, was the one who put that together. And a lot of our Buena Vita guests contributed to that research, and we are thanked in that research, which I think is really cool. Marcia said, can you talk about experiences with individuals who are not neurotypical? Yes, I absolutely can, and I am one of them. I am not officially diagnosed, and I haven't taken the tests for that. As a woman, where, as we know, most of the, I would say close to
Yeah.
all of the research on neurodivergence is on young men and just males in general. Um, quite a few people either in the application process or when they come to a retreat will begin to speak about their experiences of being neurodivergent. And
Mm.
I think that that's up to each person to how much they want to share about that experience. But it's important for me as a leader and as a facilitator because, again, it is a wide spectrum, right? Some people love touch, some people do not like touch. Some people can really benefit from really loud sounds like electronic music. Some do not like loud sounds. So the spectrum is huge and varied, and it really would affect how that person, how we were taking care of them at the retreat, how they were taking care of them in ceremony, if they needed a different space or headphones or whatever that might look like. So yes, we absolutely have. And in addition to that, I really believe we do a great job, especially at the beginning of the retreats, to give everyone a voice of how they need to be treated in retreat. And that's hard for some people, right? But we go a lot over consent and boundaries, right? With touch, with topics, with the space we're going to give each other, that if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. It's one of my favorite phrases. You can use that with everybody, right? And
Cushion.
right, that it's if someone says, "Hey, you want to have breakfast?" and they go, well, I was gonna maybe," that's a no, right? That's a no. And yeah, so that's something that's really up to either me or a member of my team does all the application calls, and so that's something that we can really go into deeper on the call of what that looks like. Just because the presentations are very different
Are
for
their experiences different? Do they respond differently? I mean, do you see any? I mean, that's a pretty broad question, but do you see any differences in how people respond?
I am thinking of a few specific people and their experiences, and it was two older gentlemen actually at different times, and one of them had just a huge experience with what's the word I want to use? It was like really revealed to him how he processed information differently and how important that was and how valuable it was. So he had a really big breakthrough around, this isn't a disability, this is a superpower. And I need to go out of my way to like make sure that my world reflects this, because like this is actually something really beautiful about myself. And I believe he was in his 60s, and so it was like a huge mindset shift of, instead of like I'm so broken and I can't be like everyone else, it was like I'm incredible. And the medicine showed me that and showed me how these sensitivities are actually powers. And so that was like a big mindset set shift. And what I've seen from other people is, again, like maybe needing some different things in ceremony. So being more clear about like needing more touch, right? Or needing more like presence from the facilitators. And yeah, and and I don't think that everyone that necessarily like goes too deep into the process, but I don't have, other than those anecdotal experiences, I don't have too much data on how that might affect. And again, like it really, I think it depends too on like the levels, right? Like level one, level two, like the different delineations. But is that someone, is that you? Is that someone in your family? Someone you, or just asking just kind of in general?
Not me, but I have two adult children on the spectrum, very high functioning. And I do a lot of work with NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, and
Mm.
work a lot with folks that have high functioning autism that kind of got stuck in the mental health system that really didn't
Mm.
belong there. They were not diagnosed there as being on the spectrum, and so never really got the right treatment. They got things that were harmful, really. They like you. My daughter has a great therapist, and just like she's like, this is my superpower, and just so believes that. And for someone who was not diagnosed until, you know, way past adolescence into their adulthood, a lot of harm can be done by
Absolutely.
not understanding who they are, and by getting stuck in the mental health system. So I was interested in this as perhaps a resource for some of those people, like, finding some way that they can move forward in a positive way.
I
And
would love to, Marcia, if you drop your email into the chat, I would love to talk to you about that and potential collaborations. I think that even in the last year, I would say, even more than any time in history, like there are so many more conservative, like socially conservative organizations that are really opening up to
Absolutely,
psychedelics.
absolutely.
And we
A
can have
couple of years ago, the NAMI National Convention was in Denver, and when I went to that, they had a workshop on uh, psychedelics and mental health, and I thought, oh, they're going to say, oh, be careful, It was so overwhelmingly positive. I was blown away, and at the NAMI National Convention. So I thought,
cool.
wow, it's
It's
really,
changing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
really the general vibe is changing. Yeah, from like it's so dangerous to like we need this. Because like we're at a time, I'm sorry, on this planet with so many people suffering that like we get it. There's dangers, but like, is that the only thing we're going to talk about? Because there's a dangers to a lot of like staying the way that there's a
Yeah,
lot of dangers of like young people committing suicide at a higher rate than ever in history. Like there's a lot other
yeah.
more dangers than mushrooms right now.
And people with high functioning autism, their suicide rate is very, very high.
Yes,
So
yes.
finding resources that are positive for them, I think, is really helpful. So I will put my email in
Yeah,
the
please
chat.
do. I'd love to learn more about that. Natalia, I believe that's how I'm saying your name, right? Had a question.
Hi, Amanda. I have a question. It's kind of the same thing, but I have an autistic child. He is on a spectrum. So, what is the youngest, person you're working with? Like, how early you can start with?
I say I think in the different organizations of psychedelics, I probably am someone who it takes the most risks, and those have led to incredible outcomes. So we have worked um, with people as young as 16 that
Okay.
have come with their parents to retreats. And we've worked with about, I would say, under age 20, about five different groups of parents and children. Um, and most of them were dealing with either severe eating disorders, OCD, something that was severe, right? Something that was really getting in the way of their way of life. And either parents who didn't want to put them on heavy SSRIs or who already had, and that was not helping. And we've had just unbelievable, incredible outcomes from that. So when this first came to me a few years back, I think it was 2022, and I was not at that time allowing anyone under age 25 to come to the retreats. And my reasoning for that was, around age 25 supposedly is when your brain is done developing, although that I think that has been disproven. And at the same time, I was like, wait, so if psilocybin is a pro brain health, pro neurogenesis, like pro brain substance, I was like, I just don't see what the problem could possibly be on a developing brain. Now, this is also based on a lot of my work with more indigenous communities and some of the communities in Mexico that give mushrooms to their children starting at like age 7. And it's just same with ayahuasca, right? Like ayahuasca to babies. Like there's a completely different attitude and a completely different way of looking at the world. I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong, but when I speak to these parents individually, we take it on a case by case basis. The child has to understand what they're doing, what they're getting into. They have to make the decision on their own. They can't be pressured by their parent. And then we start low and we go slow, right? We don't start too high of doses. But in all of the, I would say children, right, like under age 20 that we have worked with have had incredibly safe, transformative, very, very beautiful journeys. And then the parent that comes with them, usually thinks that they're going to be there as like the guardian, and they go through their own entire journey themselves, right? Like, of course, because healing is a system, right? It's not just a system of our own body. It's a system of families, and it's a system of ancestors and lineages, and so it's really beautiful for the parent not only to go through their own journey and their own mushroom journeys, but also like what happens interactive like between the child and parent like at the retreats is just like it's so beautiful. Like it's so beautiful. And a lot of parents tell me like they don't want to take the mushrooms, but they're just going to give them to their child. And that's the same answer I'll give to the microdosing question. Like, no, you got to take your medicine too. It's a part of it. And maybe they don't want to be vulnerable in front of their child, or they don't, but it's incredibly beautiful. So yeah, so I would love, like, if you want to drop your email down below, and it's just something we do on a case by case basis, right? It's me
Sure.
talking especially like I like to speak to the children without their parent there, right? So there's just no influence whatsoever. Because some people I've spoken to, the parents really pushing it, and the child's like, I don't really want to do this, like this isn't really for me. And so it just,
No.
yeah, it can be beautiful. I think that, the side effects, if there are any, to be honest, like compared to anything else that someone might do medication wise for their mental health, and this was a study that actually just came out recently. Long term, there isn't supposedly, I don't know if this is necessarily, if I believe this, but whatever, this is a study. Long term, with depression in particular, SSRIs versus psilocybin, they came out pretty similar in relief, but the side effects of SSRIs are so much more severe and so much more intense than psilocybin. And so when you look at danger and risk, to me, and I've been doing this a long time with a lot of people, there is not, when you screen properly, there is not a lot of danger and risk with mushrooms.
No, I have it myself. I have the experience. So, but I have to say, I was thinking about my child. My only thing is that he has an eating disorder. He doesn't want, it's really hard to give him anything out of his range. So my thing is like, I was trying to think how you can possibly give him that dose that he really will take it, He's because, and I don't know what you practicing in your center, because like I was in a different ones, and somebody's like doing it in a powder, somebody had like dissolve it like in the water, or you just have a whole mushrooms that you chewing it. He's not gonna do any either or will not working for him. That's what I was thinking. Maybe he needs to give him as a peel or something, maybe put it like
Really.
in a cellulose, like, peel kind of thing. So I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking because he's not going to take it. Like,
I mean, we could figure that out. That would probably be the least of his worries eventually, whether that's a tea or, yeah, in a gelatin pill or smoothie. It doesn't really, doesn't super matter how it gets into the body as long as it does get into the bloodstream. Something like a smoothie or a juice might be the easiest way.
Yeah, he is not drinking anything or taking anything. That's what I'm saying. And he's so sensitive because I was amazed. He has a superpower, like you said. I was giving him sometimes smoothies. He never tries the products ever in his lifetime, and he's telling me all the ingredients. And I'm like, how come you never tries this? How could you possibly give me the whole ingredient? He has like so like sensory for that,
Mm.
so it's just unbelievable. That's why I'm kind of like really hard to take care of that. But
Well, that's
it's
that's intense, and eating disorders and OCD and those can very much overlap with neurodivergence as well. And a lot of them are based in control, and that they're intense. Anyone will tell you, and any parent that I've talked to, there's many different ways you have to go about it, and many different things to try, but they deserve it. So. Yeah,
yeah,
I'd
cool.
love to if you can just either drop your email or some way to get a hold of you so we can be in contact.
Yeah, you want me to, like, send it? You want to drop it in in the chat, or you
Yeah,
want
put
me
it
to
in the
send it
chat
to you?
because that way I'll have that. Those will stick around
Okay,
after. And
cool.
that goes with anyone out there too. Stephanie, I already have your email, Stephanie.
Thank
Irish
you.
Elf. Irish Elf joined us late, but I love that name. Okay, so I have time for one more question. Who's got one? Bonita? Bonita has one.
Yeah,
I'll
quick
answer two
question.
more if we have them. Yeah.
So I recently I did a journey with someone who originally wanted to do a full meal deal, and then but they have very body sensitivity. So last minute we really dialed it way back, and so it was really just a microdose. Having said that, she went under pretty well, and she seemed to have like visuals and epiphanies and things like this. And I'm just wondering for something like that is because I had a whole integration package, sort of ready based on a full trip. And then it was really sort of more of a microdose. So I'm like, it seemed a little bit like overkill. And I've read that for microdosing, journaling is probably good enough. Just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
So Bonita, for those of you that don't know, was in our facilitator training. She is a
Yeah.
graduate who is now working with people, which is so cool. Um, I don't think that you can overdo integration.
Yeah.
I mean, really, like if she had a journey and she had a breakthrough and had those experiences, I would work just the same as I would with a full experience,
Yeah.
really.
Okay. Yeah.
Just as an offering, because everyone's going to take something differently, right? Like they're going to take to breath work or to walking, to journaling, whatever it looks like. So I wouldn't personally pull back just because it
Okay.
was a microdose. And then there's some of us that are just very sensitive. My
Yeah.
high doses are about a gram and a half. And I
Yeah.
have like 8 hour journeys. And most people would be like, a gram and a half, that's nothing, that's so low. But
Yeah.
I'm just a very sensitive person. And this is why I said at the beginning of this class, like I generally don't microdose that often because like it almost always affects me
Mm.
unless I just do a flake. Like even in ceremony, I just do the flakiest of flakes that won't even measure on a scale, and I'm like just deep with the medicine, like deep in that space with everyone else. So my journeys are mainly ceremonial, and they're just with others. But some people are just that sensitive. They really. I've had some people for whatever reason on a half a gram, and they have a journey, and
Yeah.
that's what happens. And
Yeah.
so I would say, yeah, don't hold back on the integration tools, and actually let her or him frame the experience however they want, right? You don't need to frame it
Yeah.
as like, well, it was just a little bit or it was just low, because to them it
Hmm.
wasn't. To them it was whatever experience they had, and we're just in that position to surrender and be available to it. um,
Cool. Yeah.
that's really
That
cool.
was a big lesson learned for me, like just how impactful even the smallest doses can be.
They
So,
really can. They really,
yeah.
really can, and it's good to be prepared for that
Yeah.
potentially to happen. Yeah. Oh, so
Awesome. Thank you,
great.
love. So great to see your
Out the room.
face.
Scott, I know that you had asked some questions in the chat here. I'm looking them over. You've asked me this before, Scott. You're my friend now, so I get to be hard on you. It's time for a big dose. He says, would it be worth raising it to, I would say if you have still some microdoses, or if you order some from Setas, or if you have, like, if you were wanting to start to feel a little bit, there's also, and people in the industry have all these crazy names, a museum dose, right? Where it's like a double microdose where you do feel it a little bit. Or maybe you can take, 3/10 of a gram instead of 1/10. But you can, go to the park and like things look a little bit different, and maybe you can feel your breath a little bit more. So you can also, I mean, you are a human being with all of the rights of the world of being with your body however you would like. But you can begin, if you don't have the opportunity right away to do a huge macro dose that's supervised and facilitated. Yeah, I would say, maybe then a few weeks later you take 4/10 of a gram, right? And it's like, oh, you start to see those liminal spaces, I like to call them. They can sometimes be challenging, like when you're in between, like you're not fully feeling the effects, but you're also not fully sober. For me, that's actually some of the hardest place to be. This is why I don't take small amounts and like go to music festivals or go places, because it's like I'm wanting to be pulled into two different directions. But for others who are not as sensitive, who have been on medications, like they can take, I know some people who say they microdose and it's a half a gram. And I was like, well, if that's what it is for you, that's what it is for you, With chronic pain, I fully believe that at least some roots of chronic pain can be emotional. Not all, but some. And so it's worth doing a few large doses just to at least check that off the list, let's say. Not to go in and say, hey, heal me mushrooms, but to go in and say, hey, I did the best I could to break open these barriers to any sort of, like we were talking about, anything I've stuffed down over the years, anything that I refuse to feel that sometimes can lead to chronic pain or worsening of chronic pain. And then, if it doesn't help, at least you tried it, and at least it was good for your brain, and at least it was good for other parts of your body. But I have seen some pretty miraculous healing of physical ailments, or what people thought were physical ailments that ended up being emotional over the years. Especially something I feel that I would want to recommend for because I know your backstory, Scott, is maybe ibogaine. Because ibogaine is extremely powerful, and it's also just from what I know, I don't serve ibogaine, and I'm not an expert, but I'm really seeing some incredible healing, like physical healing. I had a friend who healed his Lyme's disease that was like chronic, horrific Lyme, has never come back after like 8 years with iboga or ibogaine.
What can you spell that for me? And is it a herb or what is it?
So iboga is a root. It's an African root, and then ibogaine is kind of the medicine that they have synthesized from iboga. I'm going to put it in the chat. Iboga, iboga. Texas recently, and in all of Texas is random. I live in Austin. They just approved not too long ago like $50 million to study iboga. And I was like, okay, Texas, I guess we're doing that. There's some places in the US, there's some places in Mexico. It's a very long journey. I've heard 24 to 36 hours. It's a long, long journey. It needs to be medically supervised because you need to be able to have someone who's taking care of your heart rate and, your respiratory. It affects that in different ways. But it's just for like deep, long-term physical healing. I just keep hearing things about iboga being just an incredible plant medicine. It's one of the strongest, so maybe start with mushrooms too. Just to see. All right, friends, this has been wonderful. It's 8:27. I always love going over with all of you. As always, we have retreats coming up. I always have to tell you about the retreats in the end because that's what I do. We have a 7-day retreat coming up in Tepoztlan, which is if you've never even heard, you probably never even heard of Tepoztlan. I lived in Mexico 3 years and had never even heard of it. It's a unbelievably beautiful mountain town about an hour south of Mexico City. It is ancient. It is like a pueblo. There is so much other like healing medicine and medicine people in this area, and we have a beautiful retreat center there. It's an eternal spring weather, so it's perfect for the summer, and that is June 15th through the 21st. It's a small group, so probably about 6 to 8 people. And if you want to come to California, we have 2 back-to-back retreats in California, the end of May and the beginning of June. So those are, I'm going to put in the chat, May 28th through June 1st. And then right after that, which is June 4th through 8th. So those are the 5-day retreats in Joshua Tree. I was just out in Joshua Tree in March. It's so beautiful there. Oh my gosh. If you guys have never been, the high desert it's really unique on this planet. And I've traveled quite a bit. So we have a big 5-acre ranch out there and a hot tub under the stars. Joshua Tree is one of the darkest skies in the whole United States. So it's for stargazing and planets and aliens and whatever else is in the sky. It's great for
I'm
that.
coming.
And I've seen some weird things out there, man. We've seen some stuff that like you just look at it and you're like, something's not sitting right in my body. But who knows? Maybe that's the next thing that's going to be revealed to us, right, guys? Aliens.
Yeah, so they say.
Yeah, so those are our 5-day retreats, 2 high doses. We do all high doses at our retreats. We do not microdose. We talk about microdosing and we, can recommend protocols as the week goes on, but we really focus here on healing. Always have. And you don't even have to know what you want to heal, but just to want to feel better, I always tell people that I'm like, you don't come with a laundry list of like what needs to change. You just have to think of 1 or 2 words of how you want to feel. And right, so many people, it's clarity, freedom, relief is a big one, right? I just want to feel relief. I want to feel inspired. I want to feel excited. I get that one sometimes. I'm like, I just want to be excited about life again, right? I just want to just get excited about something coming up. And mushrooms are great at, again, removing the blocks in the way of that. Because as one of my favorite teachers says, everything that you think you want in the world, whether that's a person, a car, a place, a travel, everything you think you want is because you believe that you will feel better when you have it. So just feel better now. And mushrooms help with that, right? We want the feeling. We think we want the thing. We really want the feeling. And I appreciate you guys helping me always to feel such connectedness and joy and beauty, even being on Zoom calls. I never think I feel it on Zoom, and I feel it. I feel it so much on Zoom.
Awesome.
Again, the resources are in the chat. I'm going to post one last time in case it got buried, which was the sale, the April 2026. The sale of the mushrooms is going on. There it is, if you want to go through Cetas. And we're going to be partnering with Cetas for some other future things coming up, which is exciting because I am not a big collaborator. I'm usually a very control freak, but I love these ladies and I think they're doing really beautiful work. I'm a control freak because what we do can be very dangerous, and I take everyone's safety and health, mental health, emotional health very seriously. I hope that anywhere you go and do medicine in the world, they say the same thing. You are putting your lives in the hands of others when you allow someone to give you these powerful medicines. So I hope you choose well. And I hope you choose me because I'd love to meet you. All right. You guys can unmute and you can say your feeling of how you're feeling now. I now feel more bubbly, I must say. How do you feel, Benita?
I'm definitely more bubbly. Crunchiness gone. Thank you.
We decrunched you.
Decrunched.
What about you, Scott?
Mostly hungry.
Hungry. Me too. I have that one. From frustrated to hungry. I love it. Anybody else want to unmute? Tell us how you're feeling. Louie's going to tell us how they're feeling. Natalia.
I'm super relaxed. I don't know. It's like actually I just came back from Mexico a month ago from my trip, and I'm so relaxed. It's kind of like super scary.
Keep that feeling. Mexico will do that to you. I'm going
Yeah,
on Monday.
as I said, it's kind of super relaxed. I don't know what happened, but I think they wiped my memory and everything. It's like I'm so chill. So cool.
Keep it as long as you can. I'll
take look at the light.
I'll take some chill.
It's amazing.
Thank you, guys. Anybody else? You got about 10 seconds. Tell us how you feel. No? Okay. Then I'm just going to assume the best. I love y'all very much. Mush love. lots of love to all of you. Let's see if the hearts go. Go hearts. Go hearts.
I can't find them.
You know they do that, right? Okay, let's see. I'm gonna wait till the hearts go. They usually should start shoot. Yes! Yes! I knew it. So this is good for something after all. Bye.
See you, love.
Good to see
Bye.
you guys.
Bye-bye.